Hey everybody, as some of you might know, Postal 4 finally went into full 1.0 launch last week, I believe. And well, it's time for a quick video because I'm not gonna lie to you, I'm doing it like this just to show off this fit. It is the new Charlatan Wonder Spring look. It is obnoxious, and I love it. And also, another thing I'm not gonna lie to you about, I actually did get a key, in fact an advanced key for Postal 4, but just like I said in my Postal 2 video, I decided to, I can't, the ring light in my glasses. Okay, I'm gonna knock over. Oh no. Oh yeah, by the way, I got new stuff for the nerd wall. But yeah, I got my advanced copy. I decided to stay true to my word that like, I'm gonna wait till 1.0 because when I got it, I believe they had just pushed the 0.9 to live, and then I realized, oh, there's gonna be a bunch of stuff in 1.0. I may as well just not have a video out on launch and instead wait to get the full experience as you are going to experience it, and then have my take. And Postal 4 is a fun, memorable game, but unfortunately it's very hard to find the fun right now, just under the mountains of glitches and bugs. It's still there, and if anything, I'm not even sure it's the glitchiest thing I've played this month, but it's like this feels like it could have had like maybe another 6 months to a year in the oven just a bug squash. Like if this was another channel, there'd be so much Gordon Ramsay in this video. It'd just be an episode of Kitchen Nightmares. Now, also, I've seen the reviews, like the official reviews. It looks like a lot of sites just aren't bothering to review it because I think it's got like 10, 11 like critic reviews on Metacritic right now. Not a single one of them good. The best they've got is a mixed review. And I'm gonna be honest with y'all, a lot of those reviews are bait. And some of y'all fell for it. It's obvious, like especially you look at these rants and it looks like this guy, like an associate writer or whoever, I don't know their actual title, I wasn't paying attention too much. Looks like they were just looking for an excuse to go off and likely are uninitiated through the Postal franchise. That being said, a lot of these reviews bring up a lot of really good points that I'm going to go over now in my own experiences with Postal 4. Talk about the Patreon! You should talk about the Patreon! When you talk about the Patreon, people go there and they give you money to support the channel! When you get money, you can do all sorts of fun things with it, Patron! Fun things like making bigger and more ridiculous videos, Patron! Now talk about the Patreon! Well, yes, I do have a Patreon where you can support me financially. And in the trade, you get cool stuff like advanced access to videos like this one. You can get cooking recipes from all the weird stuff we cook. You get to ask me questions like that are on in this video. You can also vote on what videos come next. There's all sorts of cool stuff over at patreon.com/charlatanwonder, which link should be right down there. Microphone's in the way. And you can just check it out. Every tier's got something good for you. Every tier's got good rewards. So yeah, I know that they wanted this to be out on 420, but Postal 4 kind of makes Abermore look like a polished product. It is just absurd. It's like, okay, maybe not that extreme, but I had an easier time getting through Abermore, which I swear we are going to cover hopefully next month. It is the most amazing bad game ever, than I did with Postal 4. Because while a game like Abermore was just so buggy and glitchy that yeah, certain things were undoable, there was minimal crashing and you can like get through the game. Yeah, a lot of stuff didn't work, but it was functional. Postal 4 is not entirely functional. I'm trying to like angle my face so you don't see the lights, because that's gonna be the most distracting thing ever, but it's never mind the glitches for now. I was so bad with this game. I was soft locking so much, I actually soft locked more than I died. I soft locked more than I died and had to reset because I failed an objective combined. I decided like about 2/3 of the way through the game, I was gonna start writing down my crashes versus soft locks versus fails versus deaths. And right here we've got no fibs, like I actually did. Oh, of course that is so washed out. Oh, can you see it now? As I clip into the mic. But For crashes, we have 11 crashes here. Wait, no, excuse me, wrong. My little tally mark was too wide. We have 12 crashes here. And compare that to 11 deaths. I died 11 times in the game. 2 of those were me being a dummy and not realizing a certain thing killed me. 4 of those were like that one cave level that you'll know if you play the game. And the rest were skill issue. So I died less than I crashed. And I crashed on average once per hour. It's like not a perfect like thing, like it doesn't just like memory leak after an hour, but certain scenarios were just like practically a guaranteed crash. And to make matters worse, if you crashed or reloaded in a certain area, like timers wouldn't restart, which made things a bitch and a half. And then for those glitches and soft locks, I've got here 5, 10, 15, 19 soft locks. Like, and I consider a soft lock for this sake. I accidentally get teleported to a place I can't get out of for whatever reason. There is the Shadow Realm, which we'll get to in a bit. For some reason, an instance loads wrong, and I can't leave an area after completing a mission, and I can't like save load to try and reset the state, or I get stuck in geometry. There were a few times where I got just straight up stuck in a wall. I think this has a lot to do with they just pushed out a ton of stuff into the game. If you read through the patch notes, Postal 4 put a ton of stuff in the game right before launch. Like they went from 0.5 on Friday patch, to 0.9, and then even more stuff coming out in 1.0. So I think a lot of that was they just did not have time to balance pass QA that. And it was kind of a hot mess on launch. And I'm really feeling that, and you really see that in the reviews. You can still get through the game, but it's not a pleasant time. And as for that Shadow Realm thing, there is a chance every time you're playing that when you go through a loading zone into a new area, you will accidentally be sent to a place where nothing is loaded in. Like the ground will be there, but there'll be big holes in the ground where buildings are supposed to go. And like you'll occasionally see stuff like paintings hanging on the wall like that you can steal, but they're attached to nothing. And sometimes people will walk around. You can do objectives and stuff in the Shadow Realm, but there's no way out. You can't try to walk into a new area because like the loading zone, I guess, is a designated floor space or whatever they use to like go through, so you can't get out. And you can't save and load because you won't load back in. I think the Shadow Realm actually is an area, just like a debug zone or something. I'm not sure, because I think when I went there, it was different from the area I was supposed to be going in. And the only thing you can do is roll back, which luckily you get 3 autosaves in this game, which I think is intentional because they knew this was going to be a bit of a hot mess. And you just roll back, like you'll lose 20, 30 minutes of gameplay, but it's better than completely starting a new save. Something like, speaking of that, with all the crashes, one last thing that really struck me was someone in my Discord made a comment to the effect that really resonated with me, that if it wasn't for the fact that you see the Unreal 4 crasher every time the game goes down, they honestly thought it might have been made in Godot, which is known for being a bit of a wild card. Like the only game I can think of that really pulls it off that I know of is Cruelty Squad, I believe is Godot. I'm not much of a game dev, but I understand it's infamous for being really unstable. And that's like, because Unreal 4 on the other hand, I understand that to be a pretty solid engine. So if you're making Unreal 4 look like Godot, it needs a balance pass. It needs a something pass. I guess bug squashing, jank hunting. I don't know. It got to the point where the crashing was so bad, I had to switch recording softwares. I normally, if I'm going to record all of a game, I use Shadowplay because it's very like low impact on my computer's processing power. I switched over to OBS mainly because Shadowplay, while it can record desktop, it gets weird if you switch applications. Like it doesn't know to just record everything on one screen. It gets confused. I had a problem with that with the DreadX collection. How they do it is every game in a collection is a separate executable that opens when you like the game. Shadowplay doesn't know how to handle that. It's not a DreadX problem, it's a Shadowplay problem. So OBS, I just had to have it on and just have it recording everything on the monitor I was playing Postal 4 on, because the game would crash just so much. And it was getting to where I had a million little tiny clips that were unusable, and it doesn't actually record the crash screen, so I just had to like do guesswork or earlier stuff like, oh wait, that was a crash, when like clip just abruptly cuts off, and the next thing I record was like, oh, I'm booting up the game again. And by the way, before we go any further, just to reassure you, this isn't like a beatdown on Postal 4. I'm trying to structure this to where we go the bad, the ugly, and the good, because there's genuine good in this game, and I want to end on high notes because, well, I wouldn't recommend maybe getting it right now. Definitely keep it on your radar. Maybe in a month or two, just minimum stability. It'll be great. But for now, it's we're working our way up to the good stuff. We're getting all that nasty stuff out of the way. As I have a freaking... There it is. I'm just letting the hair hang out because I'm almost to the point where I can cut it and give it to charity because it needs to be 12 inches long. But we're not quite there yet. So yeah, the textures are a hot mess. It's everything it almost hurts your eyes. Like to look at, there's like that sort of like fuzzy textures don't load in. Sometimes stuff will just be like floating on the ground, or the object that was supposed to be underneath an object is like out of place or didn't even load. So stuff will just be floating in the abyss even when it like loads in. And even if you aren't in the shadow realm but a level loads in, sometimes entire chunks of a level will not load in. And I soft locked to that once because I followed my objective markers. I was like, oh wait, there's supposed to be like a back road here, but I just fell into nothing. A way to put it is there are a lot of funny jank stuff, like, oh look, that person flew up into the air when they collided with the thing, or like, oh wow, that I don't think that was intended, but that sure was hilarious to do. But unfortunately, the bad stuff, like say having to constantly reload a level because a certain NPC doesn't know how to path back onto his like little scooter, and stuff like, oh, I can't interact with this thing, so I'm losing time and I failed the mission because of that. All that stuff is currently outweighing the good stuff. Like, there's a ton of fun glitches in there, and there's stuff designed to be exploited. Maybe not quite to an ImSim level of exploitation, but you can do some wild and crazy stuff. And if anything, at this point, ImSims are Lamo stack boxes and obscenity rule, which you'll know it when you see it. So now that's less glitchy and more just like the ugly, since we're going the bad to the ugly to the good here. Cutscenes are mad uncanny valley. It's like you can even see like where like the jaw part ends, rest of the face begins for like moving mouths. And it's really, I don't know how to describe it. It's like, they look good. Like there's lots of like cool shadows and texture shading in there. But then as soon as people start moving or talking, or they try to do like a rack focus, like it was like a lens camera, like the thing you can do in digital editing now, or like the computer intentionally blurs one, focuses on another to give the illusion of a camera. That stuff looks great, but then as soon as people start moving or talking, it doesn't look good. And it's like, I know they've only got so many resources, and I know it's also nice we got all these cool cutscenes in Postal now. It's but I don't know what's up with that. It's I guess maybe it's also like, I'm not a game developer, maybe it's a resource thing, maybe like they're trying their best with their assets they got. I don't want to pound on them too hard for that. I hate to say it, but overall, Postal 4 looks like a game that's arguably 10 years old. I've got a couple games playing now on the screen. Here are some games from 10 years ago. Here is Alan Wake's American Nightmare. Here is XCOM, Enemy Unknown. Those were both made in 2012. In fact, American Nightmare is almost 10 years older than Postal 4 to the day. I believe that came out in like early May versus Postal's late April. And you're kind of seeing it here. It's like what they really got on them, especially in like the pre-rendered stuff, is lots of new lighting and shader technology that's came out that you can put in Unreal 4. To be more fair though, maybe if we go a few years forward to 7 years old, then we've got stuff like Fallout 4. What else did I put here? Alien Isolation, Metal Gear Solid 5. Yeah, Postal does look like a game from like a generation and a half ago, which again, those were AAA games we were talking about there. And Postal 4 is not a AAA title, but more on that later. And then lastly, for the stuff that's like really ugly, just personally, I'm not going to get into spoilers here, but the ending kind of drags. I feel like they should have had one of those two segments, or just made things like, because it feels like you do a thing that's really hard to do. You do the climactic thing, and then you have to do the thing you did before that all over again. And it's like, wait, we already did this, which admittedly towards the end, it was a real nail biter. Like if I was going to make it, but then I died and just that. but it just, why? So now to the slightly less ugly. The best way to put what Postal 4 is it's more of Postal 2. And if you like Postal 2, you will most likely like Postal 4 when it comes around. Like, right now, it's very iffy. It's just, again, it's a big mess of bugs, and it's really just hard to get through. I think if I was not intending to make this video, I would not have finished it. I would have put it down and said, hey, I'm gonna come back in 3-4 months and let Running with Scissors sort their stuff out. The first few days follow the traditional mode of the Postal games after the first one, where you've got 5 days in a week, you've got some seemingly mundane tasks, but everyone in the world is just taking crazy pills. So of course things are going to go out of hand, and you have some spectacular ways of dealing with that. There's so much stuff. There's stuff that I could not get to that they showed off in the trailers, just because like my normal playthrough did not find myself doing that. And it's just so much stuff they put in this game. It looks so much fun, and I'm probably going to replay it in a few months. I might even have a redemption review at the end of the year for Postal 4, because I feel like this deserves a second shot, because Running with Scissors has put so much and done so much for Postal 4 that I feel like once it's sorted out, it will be a much better game. Unfortunately though, all the weekly tasks you do, while there is some outlandish stuff, nothing is particularly memorable, or at least not in a good way. Like, there are a few I remember because they were very frustrating, between either glitches or just it being a pain and a half. But the reason, like, for a lot of these, like, being bad is because it's glitchy, and it's stuff I'm assuming is going to get fixed sometime. And then once it is fixed, I'll come back to it and see how it is then. Probably going to secret stream myself this week playing Postal 4 for the guys in the Discord, which, by the way, there are secret streams you can find if you know where to look. One day I'll come back to YouTube streams. But again, for the slightly less ugly but still kind of ugly, it feels like more stuff from the last game. And if anything, I would say if we call Postal, like, Paradise Lost Postal 2.5, I think we could arguably call Postal 4, maybe it should be Postal 3, because it's funny, they skip the number 3 in the Postal nomenclature. Like, maybe Brain Damage was supposed to be 3. It's not like there was something else there that we have all collectively taken Class A amnestics to forget about, and even the developers of the original Postal game disavowed. It's what could be so horrible that even the creators of Postal disavow it. So back to the slightly less ugly. If anything, we're getting into beauty is subjective territory. The humor is crude, but it's supposed to be crude. It's I think the reason why a lot of straw people, game journalists, the stereotypical, like, oh, we hired a freelancer to shit on the thing you hate so that we can harvest hate clicks because the ad economy is screwed type deal. I think those people were just uninitiated to Postal. It's, I think some people forget that the Postal franchise is supposed to be as crass and lampooning as possible without just going into mid-2010s EdgeTube where we're just screaming slurs because haha funny. It's definitely, everyone gets made fun of. There's a lot of it, yeah, there's a lot of literal doo-doo humor, a lot of phallic humor, and also there's a lot of topical stuff. I noticed that, like, they were adding stuff in up until the very end, because you see stuff like, obviously, like in the first couple days, there's a lot of references to coronavirus, or the, what is it, the pigeon virus, something like that. I hate to say it, but I don't have it off the top of my head. And then, out of nowhere, in the game, there is a reference to that freedom convoy, the truckers that didn't want to get the vaccine. There's references to that in there. There's a bunch of stuff. Like, they're making fun of everything and everyone. It's left and right, and something that also stuck with me. One of the reviews like, oh, maybe if this was a critique of capitalism, but it's not even that. It's like, what? So is crude humor only okay if it fits into your narrow sensibilities? That's not crude humor then. You just to agree with you. That's not satire. That's not lampooning. That's just you laughing at your enemies and then getting butt mad when people turn around and do it to you. You need to realize that Postal 2 is the video game equivalent of an insult comp. Everything and everyone is going to get lampooned. Heck, they even they put Civvy in the game, and it's a lot of okay, I don't think Civvy is actually that fat. I think they're making fun of him too. And also, side note, I don't know why, but it was like a coin flip every time I went into Civvy's store if the game was gonna crash. I think just Civvy's power is that bad where he can reach into my computer and break it. And also, a couple of these actually got an audible laugh out of me. I won't spoil all of them because I don't want to ruin the joke for you guys if you decide right now that hey, you know what? I'm willing to take the chance on all these glitches. I'm gonna see what happens. But there are some good ones in there. There are some absolute zingers. Postal 2 is crass. Postal 2 is going to make fun of everyone. If you are not prepared for that, you are going to have a bad time, and I suggest you play a game that just coddles your sensibilities. And you know, we've been talking enough. I think it's time for a cooking segment. Okay, we're gonna do something quick and easy here because I feel like it. The other day I was rewatching Kitchen Nightmares and the Burger Kitchen episode was on, and I remember them having some sort of insane fight about mushrooms or something, and I was like, hey, it's been a while since I've had a fried mushroom. I think I'm gonna give that a try. And here we are. That's the entire lore of this cooking segment. Step 1 is to acquire mushrooms. I suggest you do this at the store. Now, I know a lot of people say not to rinse your mushrooms, but there's dirt on these, and we're gonna wanna rinse that away, so we're just going to very lightly rinse them with water to get that dirt off, and then put them on a rack to drip dry for a bit. Then once the bulk of the water's off, we can start the process of gently patting the mushrooms dry with paper towels, and then slicing off the hard bits at the bottom of the stems. Or do that in reverse order. It doesn't matter as long as the stems are cut down and the excess water is removed from the mushroom. Okay, time for dredge and batter. I'm feeling extremely lazy today, so we're just gonna use pancake mix with some extra spices thrown in. Get some beer, like this stuff I had in the fridge, and pour it into a large mixing bowl, and then keep on adding pancake mix and whisking until you've got the thickness you'd like. I would suggest going a little thinner than you think you want it, since this stuff puffs up real good when you put it in the fryer. Now, as for seasonings, I'm just adding some diced garlic, paprika, and some of that good old Lowry's, and in hindsight, if you're gonna go for the lazy pancake mix route, I suggest using more Lowry's than I used, or maybe using a darker beer like a brown ale or a stout. And why? Because pancake mix is much sweeter than you'd expect when you're not making it into pancakes, and while these are pretty good, they'd be a lot better if we offset the mildly sweet flavor, which can clash with the savory mushrooms. As for the dredge, don't bother whooping out the flour, we've already got the pancake mix out. So what we're gonna do is get a large Tupperware container, put maybe a cup or two of that pancake batter inside, throw all your mushrooms in, shut the lid, and then just shake the hell out of it. This is much faster, and rather than dredging them one at a time, this gets them all done and gets them all ready so you can quickly put them in the batter and immediately put them in the fryer. All right, we've been here before, but it bears repeating. Add in only as much oil as we need to have the stuff we're frying fully immersed, and then make sure there is plenty of room in the pot for the oil level to rise due to displacement and the expansion of things as they heat up. In fact, make sure that there is more extra room than could be possibly displaced in your pot. Keep the lid of the pot nearby too to smother any fires quickly, and then turn on that heat to get the freedom juice between 340 and 380 degrees of freedom, which most pot thermometers will have marked out for you. Now, shake off any excess pancake mix from the mushrooms, drop them into that batter mix, give them a little turnaround with some tongs, and then immediately use a set of heat-safe tongs to gently drop them in the oil, not breaking the surface tension. These are gonna take 2 minutes total. Just let them fry up until the submerged side is a nice golden brown color, then carefully flip them over to the other side so that the top side of the batter gets cooked too. For some reason, the shapes of the mushrooms make them more conducive to getting nudged over than grabbed and flipped with tongs, but you'll get the hang of it. Once both sides of the batter are good and brown, remove them onto a drying rack and cover them with parsley for aesthetic effect. It should take a few batches to get them all fried, and these mushrooms are so small that they don't drop the oil temperature. But in fact, the oil temperature is going to keep rising with consistent heat, so you might need to turn down your burner as you go. Seriously, I've had second-degree burns from grease before, and they are not fun. But whatever, we're safe, we made our snack, let's get back to that video. These can't be good for me. Tastes great. Wait, we were doing something, weren't we? Right. Postal 4. So there's things that aren't really good or bad, they just kind of are. One example of this would be, there are now collectibles. Like, not like, get all unique little things, but like, there's little dollies you can find, and you get bonuses if you find enough of them. It's just another reason to explore. We'll get into that more later. Like, we've also got the side quest involving collecting art for that one lady, which in general, there are side quests now. There's like random people that need your help with certain things, and that's pretty neato. A lot of it feels like it's just giving you a concrete reason to wander around, but if you're a veteran of the Postal franchise, you're doing that anyway because Running with Scissors likes to hide useful little things all over the place. Like, all those houses have like stuff in them, and some don't, but it's a lot about exploring. There's also random like little challenges, like stuff like, okay, kill 10 rabbits in 60 seconds, or something like, I don't know, decapitate 10 people. And most of the time when I saw those, I was going, you know, actually that sounds like a fun idea, let's do that. Like, especially the explosion was like, hey, want to see if you can blow up 10 cars in 30 seconds? And I'm like, hell yeah, I do. These things aren't necessarily bad, they aren't necessarily good. In another game, they'd be called bloat, but here it's like, it doesn't feel bloaty. It just feels like, you're in this area, wouldn't it be fun if you could do this? Like, there's nothing that's like, go to the tops of the mountains and collect like 400 of these herbs. It's not like pointless busy work stuff. Before we wrap up and get to the Q&A, let's talk about some things to keep in mind. Primarily, you gotta remember that Running with Scissors is not a big AAA. Like, I've made some comparisons to AAA games, like when I talk about, hey, this looks like a game from 10 years ago. All the games I mentioned were arguably Remedy, but they were all big AAA studios. Running with Scissors, it's an underdog story. It's like they made a game that was universally panned, but through steady like patching and tweaking and improving, Postal 2 went from like this like, wow, look at this, it's so crass, we're gonna get upset about this for about 6 months and then move on, to a genuinely good game, something that like is actually recommended to play. And I have no reason to believe that they're not capable of doing that again. I feel like maybe releasing it on 420, even though it was clearly not ready, it's a tactical move. It's something you should never assume about someone, is that they're stupid and they have no idea what they're doing. It is always wise to assume someone is smart, that they have a plan, that they know more than they are letting on. And I have no reason to not believe or doubt that Mike J and Vince D know what they're doing. They are longtime veterans. They have survived some of the worst of it, and I am sure that they've got a plan for this. I don't know when, I don't know how long it's going to take. Like, geez, it took nearly a decade for Postal 2. But it's entirely plausible that, like, hey, we're going to, like, start fixing stuff, then we're going to start adding stuff. It's like, for example, without spoiling too much, the casino, there's only, like, 1, 2, 3 places you can really interact with in the casino. And that's about it. But there's all these really cool-looking buildings. And I can't help but think, maybe they're planning on putting more things in there. I don't want to put like words or ideas in their mouth. I don't want to accidentally like give them a bunch of work they need to do, but that's like one thing I'm thinking. It's like, oh, there's a lot of things and places where they can add cool stuff later on, like once things are stable, if they have the ability to do that. Maybe there's gonna be like a Postal 4 equivalent of Apocalypse Weekend. Like, we are barely a week into Postal 4's launch. So there's a ton of stuff. They're fixing a ton of stuff, but obviously there's always room for more stuff. This could be a model closer to, I don't want to say No Man's Sky. Yeah, No Man's Sky could be applicable, where they can subsist on just keep on improving their main game and drawing in more sales. So lastly, let's talk about what I'd like to see in Postal 4, which I've already talked about that a bit already. But in the meantime, just things I'd personally like. For now, since the soft locking and crashing is so bad, maybe allow, like, just take off the save restrictions, like when you're in a mission. Like, let us maybe quick save while we're in a mission, just in case something goes weird and we need to reload. Because there were a bunch of missions I had to keep resetting because, like, just a certain sequence wasn't kicking in. And that was a bitch and a half to, like, completely, even if you can skip the cutscene, run back in the building, get to the area, do all that stuff. Just like, let me I don't know if that'd help, especially I'm talking like quick saves, which I don't think are in the game right now. Like, oh yeah, just implement this whole thing. Yeah, how hard could that be? Which I'm guessing it's not easy. But maybe look into being a little more fast and loose saves during missions, because right now it's really hard to like get through some missions, not because of a skill issue, but because like I just kept soft lock. Then let's see what else. Oh, fast travel. Fast travel's awful. And also getting around. I totally forgot to mention this. I missed this in my own note cards, but getting around in Postal 4 is horrible. It's like the map is just a little too big for on foot or even scooter, especially with all the load gates and having to compulsively save each time you're about to enter one, just in case you get sent to the Shadow Realm. I don't know if like maybe I missed fast travel locations, so I couldn't go to places, but I found that sometimes like I wasn't allowed to go places, which obviously was contextual, but other times it's just so unwieldy and it never takes you to a very good spot that like the fast travel feels a bit useless. Maybe if you can expand on that, that might alleviate some of that. And speaking of getting around, just let me ride the lawnmowers. They're like scooters, but with extra murder. That's the most Postal thing ever. Like, please, running with scissors, let me live my millennial homeowner fantasy and ride on a lawnmower. Let the dude ride the lawnmower. I want to mow lawns. All right, thank you all for joining me. Now, I've got some Q&As from the patrons that I'm just gonna go through. If you want to stick by, stick by. If not, patreon.com/charlatanwonder. Please give me your money, like, subscribe, all that good stuff. First Q&A comes from Ziggy Red. Will I do any more roguelikes? Maybe. I haven't been playing roguelikes lately. It's not that I don't like them. It's just I haven't found a roguelike that hits me enough for a video. I really like Streets of Rogue and what it did, just other than that, also roguelikes, when I make those videos, they just don't do good on the channel. I don't know why. I love roguelikes. It's this segues into the next question. Novell asks, what do I play to relax? I like playing roguelike games. I like playing, what have I played a lot of lately? I've played Factorio. I'm playing a lot of Disco Elysium right now, which is why I bought that tie. I now have my own horrific necktie. And yeah. Okay, Yeem Machine asked, do you ever see yourself branching out from video reviews, e.g. dedicated cooking and cat videos? I used to do dedicated cat videos until I figured out I can just put Frisk at the end of every video. I don't really know what else to do with them. Maybe I can put Frisk in shorts. I don't know. As for cooking videos, I talked about this more in stories, but what I like to do is I know I can't compete with people like Binging with Babish, what's his name, Joshua Wiseman. I can't compete with Gordon Ramsay. I am not a good standalone. Look at how I have smudged my I've got this slate here so I can make sure that my audio is synced up. And I have smudged my hands. I hope this doesn't get on my coat. Speaking of cooking, Keystroke Cascade asked, how do I choose the recipes for the cooking segments? Whatever I'm feeling, really. It's like these fried mushrooms were on a whim. I think I was watching, my wife and I were rewatching Kitchen Nightmares, and it was, I think, the Burger Kitchen one. And there's just, oh, you added something to the mushroom recipe. And they were all mad about whatever, like, mushroom. You can fry mushroom. I haven't had fried mushrooms in 10 years. So I Google a couple recipes, like, okay, this is how you do them. I formulate my own plan on how to do them. I kind of like to figure out, oh, I'll just batter them, add a few things to make the pancake batter a little more savory than sweet. Dip them in the fryer. Away we go. A lot of my recipes are just, I look at a bunch of recipes to get a general idea of how you cook something. And then I sort of cobble together my own recipe based on my own personal taste. Zach H asked, do I consider Boneworks an MSim? Is VR an MSim? Sorry, can't answer that. I don't own a VR headset. I haven't played Boneworks. And again, I'm going with the obscenity rule. Like, you know it when you see it when it comes to immersive sims. It's, I have nothing against VR. I actually now have a perfect space to play around with VR, but I can't excuse the extra $1,000 to $1,500 to get fully kitted out and have the full. I know they make cheap VR headsets that I can possibly get out the door for $300 or so. But if you want to do the hands thing and really do the full immersive reality and get proper trackers and stuff, like get the full Valve index. And finally, The Profaned asked a couple questions I thought were good. A lot of people asked a bunch of questions, and I just picked the best, or like the ones I like the most. Any games I'm looking forward to? Parapedia. It's that ImSim I did a while ago. Go on good terms with the devs, or at least I think I'm on good terms with them. And yeah, like we joked like, oh, what if I'm in the game? It's like I'm like, oh, I don't want to hold them to it, and I just know like it's not gonna be a cool thing like I'm a secret vendor like Civi. It's probably gonna be like Marie goes into the men's bathroom like reverse Deus Ex style. You press like a series of like highlighted tiles on the bathroom wall, and then my face appears on the urinals. It's probably, I'm lucky if I get that. I don't think I've ever been included in a video game. It'd be really cool, but no expectations. I'm just hoping they get it out when they say they get it out. They seem to be making great progress, and I hope they're doing well over there behind the scenes. And finally, from The Profaned again, would you rather have a game with potential to be amazing but broken on launch, or an average but well-polished game? And I think this whole video says it right here. It's like, if Postal 4 was utterly mundane but well-polished, we wouldn't be bothered to talk about it. It's like sometimes jank is something that draws attention. Like I'm going to do a whole ass video on Abermore, and I wouldn't touch that if it wasn't for the fact that it is so goddamn broken, it is hilarious to play. And yeah, well, I'd like the games to be fixed eventually, and I have a strong feeling Abermore is never going to get fixed. Sometimes something that's janky but brilliant, say like I Divine Cybermancy, is better than something that's like stable but mundane, and I'll take the jank anytime because jank also gives you something to talk about. It gives you ridiculous clips, like when things break horribly in such a fun way. That's why we play immersive sims, is games that like, we break the rules of the game and we break the physics and like the stuff to see some wild and crazy shit. All right, I think that's gonna do it for this video. Again, patreon.com/charlatanwonder, and also be sure to like and subscribe because eventually I'll come back to Postal if that's your thing. We've got more cooking segments coming up on the regular. How do I eat these fingers that aren't so inky? But yeah, stay safe, stay indoors, wash your hands, especially if you got a bunch of ink on them, and wear your sunscreen when you gotta go out. Enjoy this cat video.
Oh no, of course he leaves right as I whip out the camera. But Frisk here has been obsessed with my wife's like veterinary school bag because he discovered it has sutures and other things in it, like strings. Oh no, back he goes. This boy, not so subtly obsessed with the potential for string. You are all over the place trying to play it cool. Here. Okay, maybe this is a job for autofocus. Oh no, the boy eludes me. Shit.
Subscribe to Charlatan Wonder and give him your monetary support on Patreon!